How's it going, everyone? Nick from Comic Culture here. It is Nick at Nighttime, my weekly non-spoiler comic book review show. I got done with all my books. I'm going to tell you what I thought about them coming up next. Stick around. All right, welcome back to the video. We're going to start with the big two, as we always do. We're going to dip over into Marvel first with X-Men issue number 20, written by Gary Duggan and drawn by Pepe Larraz and Garcia on the colors. Now, this book is really fun. I do really enjoy X-Men proper and X-Men Immortal, which we're going to get into next. But this issue right here is basically an issue that's going to wrap up a lot of the threads that have been hanging right now and kind of stepping us into the direction we're going to be going for the remainder of the series, or the next arc at least. We do touch on Mr. Sinister, or perhaps versions of Mr. Sinister, where I think that whole thing is really interesting, especially when Cyclops is involved, just because of all the history that those folks have. And I do like the way it kind of plays out there. There's a lot still to be answered right now. There's a lot of questions going on about what Mr. Sinister's up to. Is there more than one Mr. Sinister? What's the ultimate plan? We know he's playing around with some more genetics and creating more people, more duplicates of people. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out in the future runs, and it's kind of bleeding over into X-Men Immortal, which I think is really cool. We also touch back on Game World. We have our ladies going in there trying to take down Game World right now, and Cordyceps Jones thought he kind of had the upper hand, but I think they had a really, really clever way of getting around all his defenses in this book, and so that was really fun to see how that played out, because we get a kind of a taste of what his plan was, but it didn't exactly play out that way. So I did really think that was really fun. And then towards the end of the book, we also do catch up with Ben Ulrich, and we get to see kind of what his next steps are. He lost his memory. We found out how he did that, or why, or who's responsible for that in some of the previous issues. And we get some pretty cool conversations from there. But everything else beyond that is basically a setup to the next stage right now. Everyone's kind of in limbo. Everyone thinks they're in trouble, and we're all trying to see what the next step is for all of our different heroes. So I thought it was a very interesting story. I thought it did a good job of tying up a lot of the loose ends. It didn't drag on. The art's just incredible. I really do like what I'm seeing there from Pepe Larraz and Garcia on the coloring. I really like that art style. It's kind of like a detailed watercolory thing. I'm not exactly sure how to describe this art, and the coloring just makes it pop. It's like shiny. I just really love what I'm seeing there from that creative team on the art. But yeah, I would say X-Men 12, X-Men proper in general is a pretty good read. There's a couple issues here and there that are kind of like meh, but they're not going to be as great as Hoxpox, but I would say X-Men proper is a great place to jump in, especially if you're an X-Men fan. You can start at the beginning of this run right here, and I think you're going to be doing just fine. So yeah, I'm digging X-Men. That was issue number 12. The next book we read this week from Marvel was X-Men Immortal issue number 3. This is actually from Karen Gillan, and I believe it's Lucas Warnick, right? And I do like this one as well. Like I said, I prefer this book and X-Men proper to pretty much any other book. I hear Red's really interesting. I need to pick up issue number 3 and get caught up there, but the first 2 issues didn't quite blow me away as a relatively new reader to X-Men. I've been reading it for a couple of years now, but I feel like for X-Men Red, you need a long-standing you need a long understanding of X-Men in general to really kind of appreciate all the little nuances that they add into there. But if you like Destiny, if you're interested in like more of her history, how she kind of formulates things, her abilities in general, this is a gigantic Destiny issue. We touch base with her on pretty much the entire issue, and we get a little bit of bleed over from what Mr. Sinister might be up to from previous issues and what we saw in X-Men 12. But like I said, this is mainly focusing on Destiny and Mystique's relationship here and there. We get some Quiet Council action in here. People not really trusting each other at this stage. They don't exactly know what they should do to go forward or how they should proceed. Everyone's just kind of turning on each other just a little bit here. And we have Destiny entering towards the end with this new revelation, this new future she sees, and she needs to kind of protect everyone from and kind of influence people in the right direction. So again, I really do like what I'm seeing in the art style here. It's very different from Pepe Larraz, but it also has this really unique style to it, and I do like that a lot. There's some really serious implications mentioned here at the end of the book, and I'm interested to see if that's something we're going to play towards over time, or if it's just an alternate reality future that we're going to evade somehow. But either way, I do like what I'm reading in X-Men Immortal. It's mostly Quiet Council based, but every once in a while they dip outside a little bit and they take care of like a localized threat or a one-issue threat, and they kind of reconvene and then go forward from there. So Immortal X-Men issue number 3, I enjoy it. Like I said, I like that one in the original X-Men, so I would recommend this one as well. And then the next Marvel book we read was Moon Knight issue number 12. I got that Hellfire Gala variant because I think a lot of these are pretty cool, and I think they're going to make great little sets. But this is issue number 12. Jed MacKay is on here. Now, I really like the theme and the atmosphere and the coloring and the art in these books. It really stands out. The coloring really stands out. Moon Knight himself is very radiant. The background colors and everything are just make it pop so well. So if you focus on a page like that right there, you could just see all those darks and all those light colors combining and the contrast that's there. It's really cool. So I do like that a lot about this. The overall story, I feel like there's just a depth there that it's like almost faking itself to be like a deep comic, like a deep resonating comic, in my opinion. The villain's just not great. It's a bunch of street level guys. Zodiac's in here. He's not really threatening, I don't think. He's a good plotter and schemer, and he's somebody that he basically hires other goons to like just kind of slow Moon Knight down a little bit here and there. And it works from time to time, but like, I'm not really getting a lot from the villain in this story. So I will say that on the villain side, this book is pretty weak, but on the Moon Knight side, the supporting characters and the art and everything and his mission, his purpose, I'm loving all that stuff. I just wish we had a different villain for this whole run. We're on issue 12, like I said, and we really haven't, got a really good proper villain yet. He's very resourceful. Moon Knight's very resourceful in this issue. He kind of calls upon some of the powers that be, some of the powers that he has in some capacity. So I do like that. There's an interesting little battle towards the end, and we get Hunter's Moon in here a little bit. And but yeah, I mean, overall, it's not a bad run at all. I'm really glad that I'm reading it because I just want to read a good Moon Knight story. And I think we're heading in that direction. The villain's a little bit weak, but like I said, the art style is really great. So I haven't seen a book like this before, visually speaking. So that is pretty fun. I'm glad it's on the shelf. Moon Knight, I would say it's a must read if you're into the Marvel stuff, but it's kind of on the lower end of must read, in my opinion. But yeah, issue number 12, pretty consistent. I'd check it out. All right, and the last Marvel book we read was Miles Morales and Moon Girl. This is issue number 1, and from what I understand, Moon Girl is going to be teaming up with a bunch of different Marvel heroes kind of going forward, or at least that's what the assumption is, based on some of the titles I see. And I absolutely love that Peach Momoko cover. This is why I picked it up. And I picked it up because I don't really know much about the character. I actually have her first appearance because I'm thinking it's going to be a bigger character later on as the Marvel teams expand. But until reading this issue, I couldn't tell you one thing that this girl has power-wise or ability-wise, who she was, anything about her. So that's another reason why I picked this up, because it's a great opportunity to jump in and be educated, learn a little bit about it. So if you have any like essential Moon Girl reading material, go ahead and put them down below in the comments and share them with other people, especially if it's just a knockout run, you know what I mean? Like a must read if you want to know more about Moon Girl. So what is this issue about? There's something wrong with her connection to her dinosaur, her devil dinosaur, DD. I'm not entirely sure what the relationship necessarily is, other than they're kind of like sidekicks. And, she has certain abilities. She's an Inhuman. There's certain things that she can do. She's like an Inspector Gadget kind of a character from what I can tell here. She's got lots of gadgets and stuff. But the muscle, the devil dinosaur, something's not right. Someone's tampering with the dinosaur's mind or something like that. And so she's kind of on the hunt to figure out where Devil Dinosaur went. And in the process, she does run into Miles Morales, Spider-Man, and they kind of team up and take down some, mid-tier bad guys in this issue. So I think that was pretty cool. I liked how they like accidentally ran into each other and they kind of complement each other's style when they're taking down these bad guys. Their paths crossed just momentarily. It was a nice like in and out kind of a thing. They had a few cute exchanges here and there. So I did like the way that they interacted, and I did like all the different team up moments and accidental bump-ins that they had outside of their crime fighting scenes in here. So I did learn a little bit about her, so that was pretty cool. So I think mission accomplished. I need to see what other kind of team ups she has going forward, and I'll probably be picking them up just to kind of see where it goes. I actually liked it. I didn't mind it at all. So this is actually kind of a good surprise from Marvel this week, in my opinion. So let me know what you guys think of Miles Morales and Moon Girl, and what's the essential Moon Girl reading order that's out right now. Let me know. So that wrapped it up for Marvel. We're going to go over into Black Adam. We have issue number 1. Again, I picked this up because, like Moon Girl, I really don't know anything about Black Adam. We have Dark Crisis going on. Black Adam's in there a little bit, but I wanted to read a Black Adam book, and I'm glad it's coming out. We got the new movie coming out, of course, with The Rock and everything, so my excitement is up there for that. But this is written by Priest, and we are going to get into this one. So again, I don't know anything about the character necessarily. I know it's like a Shazam type character, and perhaps it's like an anti-hero in a way, but we do open up here with a battle, or so we thought it was, a battle between him and Darkseid, it looks like. But there's something going on with Black Adam right now. He's kind of got this infection. He's kind of got this thing he's trying to overcome, and he's actually thinking about his mortality a little bit. He's not going to be around forever. He's been around for quite a long time, but he's trying to figure out who's going to take over the mantle next. And we kind of get introduced to this real, like, smart-ass, like, doctor, right? This real young kid who's just hilarious, I think, in this issue. And he's kind of getting wrapped up in all this stuff. And so it's a little bit confusing if you're a new reader about all these different people and places that they introduce throughout this issue. But essentially at the end, we learn what Black Adam's successor is, or who his successor will be, or who they're planning it to be anyways. And so we get to see how that kind of translates and what the next steps are for that. Because again, this new candidate, this kid, complete smartass, very smart. But he had some pretty funny interactions, I thought, throughout this book. Art-wise, I do like what I'm seeing in the art, and I think the coloring is good. The paper quality is even a little bit better than it typically is, way better than the Marvel books. It's got like this little heft to it, and it's not nearly as shiny as you would typically, expect, rather, from comic books these days. So, I mean, overall, it was interesting. It didn't blow me away. I'm not super excited to read the next one. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought about Black Adam, especially you long-term Black Adam readers out there. Did this make sense? Was his voice appropriate? You know what I mean? Are they carrying his true characteristics forward? And is this going to be something that we're going to be transitioning to? Is this a power we're going to be transitioning to this new person, do you think? Given the fact that we may have never have done that before. So interested to know what you long-term Black Adam fans thought of issue number 1. I thought it was okay, but let me know what I'm missing, if I'm missing anything. All right, the next DC book we read was World's Finest, Batman and Superman. This is issue number 4. We have Mark Waid, and we have Dan Mora and Bond Villain on the colors. So, man, I really, really enjoyed this book a lot. I think that this issue here kind of tightened the scope just a little bit. It didn't focus on a whole bunch of different things. We got introduced to a new battle at the beginning of the last issue with Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern, and I thought that was pretty cool because Superman and Batman have just been getting their ass kicked in the last couple of issues, or last issue, I guess, and it's just been waves and waves of heroes turned villains by this ultimate threat that they're trying to cage again. But essentially, we have this very, very ancient evil who is very, very powerful in the magic elements, and he was restrained, he was caged, he was locked away for a very, very long time, and he actually escaped, and he's actually possessing other heroes to fight the other heroes to kind of take over the landscape, because there might be another threat out there coming back to Earth or coming back to get him, and he's kind of building his ranks right now. So we have a couple different things going on that they introduce in this book, which I thought was pretty fun. So we do get a big battle between this possessed Green Lantern and Batman and Superman. And of course, the way that it's drawn and the coloring, man, everything just pops in this one. The line work is very, very crisp. The colors are all bright and vibrant, but they just work. And I really do like what I'm seeing there. Of course, we have our Robin and Supergirl in here as well. And I love the banter between them and the tension between them. So that is pretty fun as well. But they do come up with a very interesting way of taking out this Green Lantern, Batman and Superman do. And I want to know what you guys are thinking about it, because when I saw it, I had a definite Dragon Ball Z flashback, and I don't mind it at all. I thought it was a pretty cool thing. But yeah, let me know what you guys are thinking about how they end up taking care of this lantern. And I mean, spoiler, it's kind of right on the cover right here. And I love this cover, by the way. I thought it was great. But I'm saying Batman, Superman, World's Finest is probably one of my favorite DC books out there, with the main characters involved, something outside of like Nice House on the Lake or something like that. But yeah, this is one of my favorite books out right now, and it hasn't disappointed me yet. I love all the interactions. The overall story is rather generic, but I think it works. It's got a really interesting cast of characters in there, and it's just drawn really well, and I'm loving it. So World's Finest, this is issue number 4. I'm digging it. So that was it with the big 2. We're going to jump over into some indie books, starting with Boom Studios. We have Something is Killing the Children, issue number 24. We have James Tynan on here, and we have Delera on the art. And I got another one of these die-cut bloody masks. I think this guy's called the Dragon or something like that. He's kind of their leader, and he's got that gnarly scar right there. I do like these bloody variants with the die-cut, rather. Bloody variants. I do like those a lot. So this book touches on a few different things. We do get a little history lesson on Gabby, that little girl whose family was just murdered by something mysterious. And of course, Erica and the different houses kind of know what's going on, but the town around them is just kind of trying to figure out what all this means, including Gabby. She doesn't really know what the hell's going on either. So we do touch on her a little bit. We get to see what actually happened with her family that kind of led us to the beginning of this new arc over here, which I think is pretty fun. We do touch with Erica a little bit in this story, but we don't get a whole lot of action from her. But then towards the back of the book, we actually get to see the girl that we saw previously, who's actually hunting Erica Slaughter, and she goes by the Cutter as of right now, and she's pretty badass. She's asking some very tough questions to the current leadership, trying to figure out where Erica is and how she could have went this rogue, and she's trying to throw some shade towards some people, and it's not very appreciative. But we have some killer covers featuring her coming up, so check those variants out, I'd say for sure. I know some of them have been released on things like Unknown Comics and whatnot, so I would check those out because they're pretty killer, and I do like those. Not a whole lot goes into this issue. Like I said, we get a little bit of a backstory. We catch up with Erica just a little bit, and we catch up with this new character they've just introduced previously. So I would imagine they're going to be, fighting each other here pretty soon in the next few issues. This is 24. I want to say around 25 or 26, they'll probably have their battle, or at least meet. So I would look out for those and see what happens there. So Something's Killing the Children, always a great read. This one's not as great as some of the best ones out there, but it does continue the story just a little bit, and the art's pretty killer as well, so check it out. All right, we're going to jump over into some Fantagraphics. We have Red Room Trigger Warning, issue number 4, featuring Mr. NFT. That's me, guys, Mr. NFT, Mr. VV, not really. I'm very different from the guy that's featured on this one, but this one's pretty interesting. So every Red Room book is independent with the same connecting high concept, right? So we all have different viewpoints into what the Red Room is. We're either from the perspective of somebody that's operating a Red Room, somebody who discovers one, or in this issue in particular, the perspective is different people that actually partake and watch these different Red Room streams. And the Red Room that they are addicted to at the moment is Mr. NFT. And he basically creates human sculptures in grotesque positions and everything else. So, I mean, subject matter aside, I'd say the composition and the creativity for the paneling and everything is just outstanding. I really love what I'm seeing there. It's just super creative. You're either looking at the different panels and the different parts of the Red Room chat and everything through a web browser, and it has overlaying panels that we see more traditionally in comic books. But then you also have like a mobile component where you see the different phones used and things like that. And it's just really creative on the composition and the way that it's actually laid out on the page. And every single page is just slightly different, and it really keeps your attention from that creativity perspective. In this issue, there's also a little bit of satire with some of the characters they show, and some of them are pretty on the nose for sure, and then some of them aren't. Very public, very well-known figures, and they kind of play that secretly they are into these kinds of things. And some of them get caught, some of them don't. There's a pretty interesting little twist about how the FBI kind of catches up with them, but this book was really fun. I love the series. It is grotesque, it is crazy, but there's usually a really good story behind it. So it's not just complete garbage when it comes to, just like violence and everything. There's actually a cool little story behind it and some interesting characters. So if you're into like the horror films and you're into that kind of thing already, you can probably jump into one of these books and everything, and you could appreciate what's going on. But if you shy away from all that stuff and you got kind of a light stomach, maybe just stay away for now. But yeah, if you're into that kind of thing, I would check it out, man. You get a taste of what comics are outside of like the superhero realm. You know what I mean? So it definitely kind of widens your horizon from that perspective. But yeah, Red Room, trigger warnings, number 4. I'm loving it, man. I'm loving it. And there'll be more volumes of Red Room coming out according to the note at the end from Ed Piscor. So I'll be totally down for those as well. All right, we're going to bounce over into some Image Comics next. We have Kyle Starks on I Hate This Place. This is issue number 2. Now in issue number 1, we did get a little bit of what the premise is for this story. We essentially have this older woman who passed away. She passed her house down to her, well, I don't know if it was like a niece or a granddaughter or something like that. I can't remember exactly. So her and her girlfriend go there to kind of see what the property is all about. And they realize very quickly when the nightfall comes that this house is haunted. And they do find some journals and some videos and things like that from her deceased relative, kind of explaining the rules to them. Don't go out at night, don't let them touch you, all these things. And so we got this very quick introduction of what the actual problem is. And in this issue, it expands it a little bit further. I do think it's funny that their first reaction is to go see a medium, and they have a pretty funny interaction with that person. You don't quite think it's real at first. Her little backstory is kind of funny, but you quickly learn that there might be more to this. And she might be a believer now, if she wasn't already, of what is actually going on in here. There's also this criminal element that's in here as well. I believe in the first issue we had this guy actually kill a couple of other guys in the woods, and they were looking for some kind of a treasure, and he just so happens to be around in this property as well. So there's a little bit of overlap there. I think that's kind of an unnecessary plot point right now, unless it develops into something larger later on. I'm just more focused on this couple and their interaction with this house and what they're actually going to do about this. And there's kind of like a Ghostbuster moment, like, do you have any ghosts bothering you or whatever? Who are you going to call kind of a moment in here? And we're introduced to a new character at the end who I think is going to add a whole new element to this entire thing. And it should be pretty fun going forward. So I Hate This Place. It's actually a really fun comic. If you haven't picked it up and you see it on your shelves, pick it up. Give the first one a read. If you enjoy that one, issue number 2 is out. And I believe FOC or whatever is going to be soon for issue number 3. So I would give it a try if I were you. It's not a bad read. All right, the next image book we have, and which is the last image book, is Nocterra issue number 11 from Scott Snyder. And we have Tony S. Daniel on the art. And I will say that the premise of this I really enjoyed in the first few issues. The explanation of how the big PM actually happened and how it affected the world and our main characters, I thought all that was great. I love the introduction of Blacktop Bill. I thought he was a pretty intriguing character. I actually liked the little team up that he was forced to do with our main heroes here, because they had a common goal, a common objective, but you just knew he was going to turn his back on them and betray them at some point. You just didn't know exactly how. And this is kind of our betrayal issue. This is our I'll stay behind while you guys escape kind of an issue. We have most of our main team still intact here, and they're going to be continuing on the mission. We had some casualties and issues in this issue, or did we? Maybe we had an evolution of characters, so to speak, in here as well. I think we're going to have a little evolution in 2 different ways with heroes and villains in this issue going forward. I will say, I think the overall theme of this book I enjoy more than the actual writing and story of it. I like what it's doing. I like the objective. I like the coloring. I like the art. I like what's happening here. But it kind of loses me from time to time. And then I hear a lot of people say this is one of the best books out right now. I would agree. It's probably in the top 15, top 10, but I wouldn't say it's in like the top 5 or something like that. But it is a very good indie book. And a lot of people love it. So if you're not on it yet, I would try to check this out, getting the trades or getting like the image first or whatever for issue number 1. And I would give it a try because a lot of people like it. And it's actually got a really good story. And Scott Snyder is doing a really good job with Tony S. Daniel on the art. So I would check it out if you haven't yet. All right, the next 2 books are from Dark Horse Comics. We're going to start with The Lonesome Hunters. This is issue number 1. This is actually written by Tyler Crook. And I didn't know anything about this book. I think I saw that it was a new number 1 from Dark Horse. I don't know who Tyler Crook is, but I did read the premise, and it was essentially about a guy who had like demon slaying abilities, and he kind of grew up and things like that, and his past is coming back to haunt him, and that was interesting enough to pick up this issue. And that's essentially what we have. We do get a little bit of an origin story of this little boy who was chosen to wield the power to slay all these different demons, and on his first mission, everything kind of goes to hell, and he fails big time. He kind of holds that regret throughout his life and everything, and he's called upon again in his elder years, and he kind of has to pick up that sword again, and he gets his big second chance. They don't really talk about too much experience between his childhood and the time where this book takes place. I feel like he may have had a couple of encounters between then, but they didn't really get into that really in this issue. But they do reintroduce the demon element more in the present day, and now he has to take care of all that with all the experience he may or may not have at this point. I'd say from an art perspective, the paneling is pretty straightforward, pretty simple, very, very clean. Nothing really spectacular going on there. There are some creative moments here and there with some of the perspectives that they use in certain panels. So I did like that. The overall art style is really a little bit gray. There's not a whole lot of bright colors in here. It's probably symbolic of just, you know, the overall tone of the book, but there's just lots of browns and yellows and things like that. I'll give you kind of a full page spread of what you'd expect from the art style here. So that's what you're going to basically get throughout this book. Again, it's not very bright or colorful, but it does match the tone, I would say, of the book itself. It wasn't bad. It was kind of like a We Have Demons, if you read that lately. Mixed with like God Country in a way. But yeah, we'll see where it goes from here. Lonesome Hunters #1, not a bad read, probably a hot seat book. I don't know if I'll get issue #2, but let me know what you guys thought if you read this one down below. All right, the last Dark Horse book we read. That's funny to say the last Dark Horse book because typically we only get maybe one, if any. But we got two this week. We have the Shaolin Cowboy Cruel to Be Kin. This is issue #2. This is from Jeff Darrow and Dave Stewart. And if you watch my review for the first one, I thought Dave Stewart had a difficult time, or may have had a difficult time coloring issue #1. Bro, issue #2, I don't know how he does it. I have no idea. The amount of action in landscape and different just elements, different debris, it's just incredible in this book. I cannot imagine having to color this book. Look at this spread right here. And just look at that when he's crashing through. It's like a vendor that's selling all these different vegetables and all this stuff. They have to really sit down and pencil all that out, ink all that out, and then color it as well. That sounds like a nightmare. It's absolutely gorgeous. There's not a whole lot of dialogue in this book. It's mostly just a gigantic action scene. We're still being chased by this weird jellyfish, small man, kind of a weird dude right now that we got introduced to in the first issue. And that chase scene is extending all the way through this issue as well. There's a scene in here where our Shaolin Cowboy is actually fighting a flock of like killer birds with his swords and stuff. It's insane. It goes on forever. It's gruesome. It's brutal. It's awesome. I loved it so much. Again, there's not a whole lot of dialogue in here, but there's like a sense of real danger, desperation, fear that's in this book. He's up against these insane odds and always finds a way through it right now. And it's getting a little bit personal towards the end. So this, our villain right here is going to be pretty sorry that he did what he did at the end of this issue. I guarantee it. But it's a really, really fun book. Extremely light on the dialogue. It's probably why it's not one of my favorite books of the week, but it's definitely the most visually appealing book of the week, I would say. Shaolin Cowboy Cruel to Be Kin, issue #2. I would check it out for sure. And then our last book that we read this week was from Source Point Press. We have Nook, issue #1. It's like this larger size book. I'll pull up Shaolin Cowboy to kind of show you the difference in that one. So we do have this larger format, which is really fun. I prefer it when it's like cardstock like this, like a DC Black Label book, something like that. But I'll take what I can get. It just seems to be pretty prone to getting wrinkles like that, like spine indents and things. So I don't know if there's any real way to prevent that at all. But what's our story right here? Basically, we have this family that's leaving Germany right now. It's in the middle of 1939, so we have the war going on. We have this German family trying to escape the different armies and things like that. And they found this old house that they're going to move into, but the house might be haunted in a certain way, or at least possessed with like a former version of the daughter that is with the family. And so we're kind of understanding a little bit more about what that means in here. So it's basically a move-in montage. They find the house, they start moving in, weird stuff starts happening, especially to the daughter, and she's exploring what that means, has a few scares and things like that. I'll show you what the art style looks like. It's all black and white, but it's pretty nice. I do like it, but it is all black and white. But I think it's pretty impactful at the same time. And there's nothing crazy going on with the different, with like the paneling and things like that. There is moments where they utilize blacks really, really well to help you focus in on the subject of the panel at that time. But yeah, it is pretty creepy. There's some elements in here that are definitely creepy. And of course, we get some unfortunate events towards the end of the book. I think this will be not an ongoing, but there's going to be some subsequent issues. So it's not just like a one-shot. But yeah, Nook #1, it's not a bad read. If it's at your shop, I'd recommend picking it up. It's $4.99. It's extra size. It's a fun story. The art's interesting. It's got like a horror element to it. And it's set in 1939. So it's a pretty cool combination for a great story. So if you see it and you have the opportunity to check it out, I'd get it. So guys, that's what I picked up and that's what I thought about it. Let me know what your favorite books of the week were down below in the comments. And if you have anything you can help me out with about my understanding of these books, please put them down there as well. But as always, I appreciate you watching the video. Like, subscribe, share, hit that bell notification to be notified of future videos. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the comments.